So this is Baptism by Fire by Multiman Publishing and the Gamers. Continuing the playthrough here, and we're going to try and not have the game ruined by that cat there. Yeah. Okay, so I just slipped into a bit of a groove and played through the entirety of turn 2 without even bothering to stop. So where did we get to? The Americans had the first activation, and they were around here just having been forced back out of Sidi Bouzid, and they dropped back down this road and tried to establish some sort of position in around here. As you can see, that position no longer exists. There's just the HQ of CCA there, and Kern is pretty much all that's left of that formation, and he's got one step on him. So yeah, they just got picked apart by these high-grade armour and more high-grade armour and some artillery that got dropped in. Yeah, it was all pretty horrible. So I think the American armour was like here and here, and just boom, two engagements, and bang, both went. Right, so yeah, so Stenkov rolled up and did a number on them, and then after that it was pretty much all manoeuvre, because CCC is just sitting up holding up over there, but Kampfgruppe Riemann, they got a half activation, but that was still enough, a partial activation, but that was still enough to drop an objective in this victory point hex, and enough movement points to roll some infantry up the road with truck movement, and you can see the rest of the Kampfgruppe following on behind. Then Gerhardt rolled up and took control of Sabitler and garrisoned that. And Shooter, I think this is, swung onto the road to take control of that, and so it's all very clockwork and organised by the Germans. There's Shooter holding the road. Down here is Stenkov just mopping up the Americans. Gerhardt in here holding Sabitler, and up here we've got Riemann holding the last victory location, whatever that's called. I can't see what it's under there. Look at means it's a victory location with that objective. No, I can't read that. Anyway, there it is. So the Germans currently have everything that they need to win the game. They've got Sidi Bouzid, Kern's Crossroads, Sabitler, and one other objective. We've got 2 turns to go. The Americans are nowhere at the moment. The Americans have got CCB coming on next turn, turn 3. And then I think they get some partial part of an infantry division or something roll on in turn 4. However, the Germans get another Kampfgruppe, Lang, I think, rolling on in turn 3. So at the moment it's a solid and easy German win, but the Americans might have counter-attacking opportunities. So in turn 3 here in Baptism by Fire, Operation... What are we playing? Operation Spring Wind? Yes. We had rain, and what that meant was you couldn't cross streams except at bridges. But the main thing it meant was that no activation could be more than partial. Only partial activations allowed, so no full activations. And the only real effect of that was that the Americans had some reinforcements to come on. CCB, Combat Command B, not many reinforcements, but some. And were hoping that they might be able to put some pressure on this hex here, which you can see has now been reinforced by those really scary tigers, and they're flipped to their combat side. But that wasn't the case earlier in the turn, but the Americans were only allowed a partial activation, then failed a second activation roll, and didn't want to get too close. So they just ended up sort of posturing a little bit on the map edge up there, while Riem Ryman, I should call him, moved up and reinforced that town. Other than that, very little happening. I mean, it's not like these 2 units of CCC are going to launch some huge counterattack into 4 or 5 camp groups down here. So the Germans just consolidated their control of all the key locations that they need. Combat Command A doesn't exist anymore. The last unit, Kern, artillery, finished him off, and that was that done. The only real other thing that happened was up over here. Shooter moved forward to control Kern's crossroads, but left this section of road pretty much undefended. And then Lang, who was due to move a camp group of reinforcements on the board, completely failed his activation roll, rolled a 2, failed, despite being fresh and everything else. They have a -2. He failed, didn't get a second activation, and none of his troops made it onto the board. Whether that means in this final turn the Americans can do anything in terms of cutting this road, because this infantry could now drop down into Poste de la Souda here, and actually, or at least next to it, and cut German combat trains out of supply. Whether that has any effect or not, I don't know. And this guy, similarly down here, would actually be exerting zones of control over these tracks, which would prevent any supply coming along there either. But there is still another supply point up there, and blah blah blah. Anyway, I doubt that will have any effect on play. It might be fun just to have a prank around with, but the main action in turn 4 is going to be these guys trying to find a solution to these Tiger tanks, and I'm not sure there is one. And the other thing is the Americans have some more reinforcements to arrive this turn, so they should have quite a force to hit with up here. But it's a question of getting past these Tigers. One final thing to mention is that during the game I should have been rolling air points each turn for either side, and that's a kind of extra artillery that you can drop on things just with a die roll, but it favours the Germans anyway, so I doubt it's the tables for air points favour the Germans. The Allies get a d6 -2 and the Germans get a d6, so I doubt that's had much impact here. But this is really a sort of learning game, and I did the opening activations in some detail to show how the system worked, but there's not much of a contest here. However, the Americans, if they can grab that hex and the Germans can't take an alternative, like say, where is it, this one up here, then they can get a draw. So the Americans are looking to take to hold these 4 red victory hexes up here. I'm doing a very bad job of pointing the camera at them, but there's one there, and 2 here. Now the Germans have got a pretty solid lock with their Tigers and some infantry in there, and that's what the Americans have to try and deal with. So the Allies actually have quite a lot of stuff about to arrive in this last turn here. This American 34th Infantry Division minus a couple of its battalions, but there's 5 big infantry battalions there, all 6 steps, 3 AR with their combat train, and their HQ with 3 artillery support as well. That could be useful. And then the British Commonwealth 1st Guards Brigade arriving with its HQ, some support units, some anti-tank support with a 2 AV number and a little 2 below it, which I think is range. I'm going to have to check what these actually do, because they've got no movement, they've got nothing on the other side, so what do you do with them? I need to check that. But then they've got some nice AR4 infantry, 2nd Coldstream Guards by the looks of things, and the 3rd Grenadiers, and some decent armour, and some Hampshire Regiment infantry as well. So yeah, some cool stuff about to arrive on the board. It's pity we only get 1 turn of it. So a couple of objectives here then for us with these would obviously be to try and drive forward and retake this town from the Axis, and perhaps secure this. Everything's got to come up over here at sea, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to put any more units over here. I very much doubt we can get them there. On the German side, they've lost a camp group. The camp group holding Sabitler has been withdrawn. Wow. So they've gone. So that's now an empty space. And some American armour's just dropped in next to this HQ down here. So two rather decent armour brigades. 3rd, 13th and 1st, 13th light tanks in there. And some armour in there. So there is at least something down here to keep the Germans occupied. It still looks very sketchy as to whether the Allies can do enough here to prevent a German win. But they do at least have some resources to play with in this final turn, which is nice. One last thing I want to point out is that I'd been looking or suggesting that this infantry could make a break for it and drop down onto this road, maybe to cut supply. I don't think that's allowed. I've been thinking about that, and I don't think the rules allow it. I seem to remember that if you move, you've got two choices. You can move such that you end up, if you're out of your HQ's command radius, which this guy clearly is, since HQ's down over here. If you're out of your HQ's command radius, I seem to remember the rule is you either move back into your command radius or you don't move at all. I don't think you can just wander around aimlessly outside your command radius. I believe that's the rule. I'm 99% sure it's the rule. So I don't think these infantry can just pop out and start acting independently. If they move, they've got to be here. So they're essentially stuck in place. There's no way that they can do anything other than they're dug in with their supplies, with their ammo, and they either get relieved or they're waiting to be overrun. Okay, just to follow up on this, there is an alternative. The rules also say, I'll just pan down here, with regards to moving when you're outside of command radius, it says a unit, if you can't get back into command radius, it says if doing so is not possible, a unit must move in a way that will get that unit into command radius without foot dragging. So, I think it's possible to try and move back towards your HQ as swiftly as you can. I would allow that, I suppose, given what that says. If you can't get in, must end the activation in command radius, almost end the hex with which they began. If doing so is not possible, the units must move in a way that it will get the unit into command radius without foot dragging. Okay. So I guess they can try and slog their way through all this ground to get back to their HQ if they wanted to. But I would then say that they'd probably have to flip to their quickest move mode and try, the route that gets them there the quickest and easiest, according to the without foot dragging, which would still cut the sort of German supply up that road and be quite entertaining. So anyway, turn 4, let's see what happens. Just to point out then that in the reinforcements phase of turn 4, the Allies got a very good roll, rolled a 6, got 2 steps of armour and 2 steps of infantry to rebuild, and therefore were able to put some of CCA back together. A lot of these units will only have 1 step, and they didn't have enough infantry to be able to rebuild, so they've got a step of infantry. Their recon unit has got a step back, and an armour unit got a step back, but it means they've got a bit of stuff to at least engage with. So this 4th turn is looking quite fluid, and everything isn't as cut and dried as it certainly appeared a turn ago. Should be fun. So here in turn 4, at Baptism by Fire, the Allies have got the first activation, and so CCA 1st Armoured is on the move from its position down here. It's cut up these tracks, it got a full activation, didn't place any objective markers, but they're making a sprint to try and grab Sabitla. As you can see, they've made it this far, leaving their poor old infantry lagging behind. They'll probably get left behind, and that'll just suck for them. But now they want to try and go for a second activation, because if they get it, a 5 or more, then they can rush Sabitla, drop an objective in that, or even a partial activation. But if they can roll a 5 or more, get an activation, they can grab Sabitla, and that's going to make life very, very interesting, because the Germans are then going to struggle to hold on to everything they need for the win. So, because they'll have to recapture Sabitla while holding on to this place up here. Difficult. So let's just see if they get this, and the game's going to take a very interesting turn. If they don't, then they're kind of stuck in the middle of the desert on a track, not doing much. So, here we go. Oh, look at that. Look at that, they've got a second activation. So now they need a snafu roll to go their way. Let's see what the snafu roll is. They get an 8 on the snafu roll. Well, let's see. 8. It's at least a partial, which is what they needed, but they've got, they're not fresh, they've not got a coordination marker, they've not got any fatigue because they recovered it during one of their turns when they were, down and out with hardly any units. Not fit mixed formation, no game specific snafu. Their trains are at an optimal distance, that's a 9, and on ghost trains that's back to an 8. They have a full activation, and so they are going to be able to drop an objective marker down onto Sabitla and make life really interesting. So they're not doing any combat or anything, I'm just going to work out how they can move. So that was obviously quite a serious error to garrison Sabitla with a camp group that was going to be withdrawn this turn, but there you go, live and learn. So there we have it. The Americans have set up camp in and around Sabitla to try and make it as difficult as possible for the Germans to recapture. So they've got some fighting and thinking to do now, the Germans, and also, as we know, significant pressure going to be put on this camp group, which has now had its combat trains, supply trains are now illegal because the road's been cut through there. So they've got some serious problems. So it looks like the Germans are going to have to try and clear this lot out of the way to open that road up, so that when this camp group activates, if it needs to, those are legal again. And we've got a very fluid position, albeit through some really quite haphazard and poor play of the Germans on my part, but we've got an exciting final turn. So this camp group Lang has charged up the road here to engage CCA. This armour unit that the Americans put in the road has been forced back and taken losses, but has inflicted us losses as well. And an artillery strike on Sabitla has cleared that out of the units that were holding it. But there is still a zone of control, and this thing exercising zones of control on these road hexes. So Lang has just rolled for a second activation and got it, and I've got to make his snafu roll now for him. So let's see how he goes. And he's got enough for a full activation, so he's going to have a chance now to seize back Sabitla with his troops here, and it looks like the infantry will probably assault into here to try and force that out of the way to allow the armour forward to engage and get into the city. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. I'm going to get to drop a couple of objective markers down first though, and it looks like the most sensible place for these is to drop a double objective in here so that Sabitla's in the objective zone. Do we actually have to put a marker on the city though? That's an interesting question. If I can have a double objective zone there, that would be marvellous. If I have to put one on the city, less so. Let's just double check that. Not terribly interesting from your point of view, but no, it requires a friendly objective marker, not just to be in the zone. Okay, so the Germans will drop one there and one on Sabitla itself, like that. Cool, let's get underway. So you can see the Germans have managed to recapture Sabitla here, but they do not have a clear road through Sabitla. This armour here is still exerting a zone of control into this hex, and that is cutting the supply line up this road to Ryman's combat trains here. So his combat trains are in an illegal position. When he tries to activate, he's going to have a very tough snafu roll to make. So the Americans, allies, making life as difficult as possible here for the Germans still, and it is an allied activation. And I guess, well, we've got a couple of things we could do. We could roll one of these groups on and have a go at this, because we've got these tigers to try and deal with. Or we could activate Combat Command C over here and roll his armour down this road and see if we could put any pressure back on Sabitla from this direction along this road. It's a real long shot. Maybe we'll save that one. I rather fancy throwing the Americans on, coming down this road and seeing if we can't lay some artillery into this town, because this guy's got 3 artillery points and it's a long shot, but I don't fancy any of our units' chances in combat with that tiger. You know, it's 10 factors, range 2 is just a beast. So let's drop some artillery in there and see if we can't get rid of it that way. So here we go, we've got our 34th Infantry HQ come on with a full activation with 3 artillery points. We've moved some infantry up here that can spot into that hex. Those palms don't block us because we're off to the side, slightly to the right, so we've got a clear line from the centre through to there. We can spot that hex 3 hexes away. It's just open ground with a road in it, so we're dropping 3 points of artillery in here, and what I should have done but omitted to do is mark it as an objective hex, but clearly it is. So we're going to put a double objective marker down on there, which is required for us to actually fire the artillery. So we've got 3 shots at each of those things, so that's what our 3 points mean. So the tiger, we need a 6 to cause its depth losses. The infantry, I think we just need 3 to 6s, because there's no terrain in there. But it's the tiger that we need to take out, or really need to take out. So we've got 3 dice and we need a 6. Let's see what happens. And there is a 4, 5, 6. Boom. So the tiger has gone. That's really good news. Really good news, because we now have some hope of taking that objective. Let's have 3 rolls against the infantry to see what our artillery barrage is going to do. And 3, 3, 5, those are all hits. That's 3 hits on that infantry, which is got 6 steps. So now we can plan how we might shift that infantry out of there and retake the hex. So here we are then. I'm still trying to work out how the Allies are going to take this objective hex from the Germans. It's got 3 steps of 4 AR German motorised infantry in there. So there's 3 steps left. And we've basically got the remainder of the 34th Infantry Division, and then possibly a reactivation, and then the 1st Guards Brigade over here. So the 34th Infantry Division still have 4 battalions of infantry to come on. So, you know, we have to have a think about how we're going to do this, or we've just got to take some gambles, because firstly, we're going to start clogging this road up. Secondly, there's no guarantee that the 1st Guards Brigade makes its snafu roll. It could be stuck at the entry hex, like Lang was when he tried to get on the board. So they could activate, roll badly, not be able to even make it up here. So these units, we would love to get them into the action. I'd love to get this, roll this armour up to the to Ryman's infantry here and crack at it with a couple of shots through these guys, because they've got no cover there. So yeah, we're hitting on 3 to 6s to cause step losses. That would be great. These guys are our best infantry for, you know, the 1st Grenadiers and the Coldstream Guards, 4 AR infantry. That's our best infantry, but trying to get it there with 4 movement points, you know, is you know, they've only got 4 movement points to get there. And that doesn't quite get them there. Even up this road, it's 5.5. I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4 movement points only gets you there. It's 5.5 to get there. So they'd need 2 activations. There's very little, you know, very little chance of that, because I think this guy only gets a reactivation. He only gets a 2nd activation. Yeah, on a 5 or a 6, and he's not fresh, so he's got no bonus. So he's only got a 1/3 chance. We've only got a 1 in 3 chance, maybe, with good rolls, less than that, of getting these guys into play. That armour may well get there, but then that armour doesn't have an arrow, so we can't assault the position with that. So I think we have to bring these guys on. They've got 8 movement points, but they can't assault. Okay. Because the other problem is we're going to end up clogging up the road. You know, the stacking limit is 2 combat units. So what I don't want to do is move stuff up to this and have filled all these hexes and not have taken it. Man. So these 34th Infantry can't get there. They're going to have to move on. So I'm going to move them into sort of positions around the HQ in this area to keep them off these road hexes, and then try for a reactivation with the HQ. Of course, if the and that's a 6 only. Of course, if they make it, that's another 3 artillery we could drop in, and that may make our lives much, much simpler. So let's move these on and roll for the reactivation. So here we go with the reactivation roll for the 34th Infantry. Needs a 6. Doesn't get it. It's finished, and it's down to the 1st Guards Infantry Brigade to try and get the job done up here. Okay, so we're going to activate 1st Guards. The Germans have just done an activation way down on the south edge of the board, which isn't going to change anything with one of their camp groups down here. Stenkov can just, you know, shuffle things around. So it's 1st Guards Brigade coming on, and this is going to be their snafu roll, and this is going to determine what they've got in terms of movement. So they've got a -1 for being fatigued. They've got no game specific snafus. They've got +1 for optimal distance, and they've got -1 for crossing the streams, I think. So that would be -1 fatigue, +1 to 0, -1. So a net -1 on this roll. They've got a 9, -1 is 8, and they have got a full activation to play with, which is really good news for them. So we've reached this position here, with the Allied attempts to regain this gap here. Infantry have got up as close as they can. I mean, they could get it. They probably could get adjacent, but there's no point because they don't have assault arrows on this move side, and they haven't got the movement points to get adjacent with the arrows. They have the HQ's dropped some artillery in here. This is down to 2 steps, as you can see. And now we have rolled our armour up to engage. Now I was hoping that we would just be able to pop some shots off in here, but we can't because there's support. They've got support, 3 AV support from this unit here. So we have to try and engage and drop their support first before we can do anything else. So we have got an armour value of 2 and an AR of 3 for 5. These guys have got an armour value of 3 from the support down here, 3, and an AR of 4 for 7, and we're on a -2 here as far as I can tell. -2 on the engagement table. So it is a double objective zone though, that's great. So we've got a +1 from that. Limited AV, no it's not. Multiple supports, no. So we've got AV plus action rating. So we know that's 5 versus 7, so -2. -1 then on this die roll. And we're now using the support involved line. So we're rolling 2 dice on that support involved line with a -1, 4. -1, 3. 3 is fire, a loss, and traffic. Well, it kind of doesn't make any difference unless we can clear them out. There's no effect unless we can get to them. So the losses at this stage I don't have to worry about too much. Anyway, let's drop that in there. That's a 3. And there would be traffic on there. Let's maybe I should find a traffic marker if there is one. Yeah, I'm not sure what they look like. Anyway, that's where we've got to, and I think all we can do now is make the fatigue rolls and see if we can get a continuation. Okay, so here we go. We've got 1 roll for a continuation. If we don't make this, then we're out of options to try and seize objective hexes, really. So let's see what happens. A 5 or a 6 for a continuation for the first guards. They've got a 3 and they are finished. First Guards Brigade, this marker gets flipped over. I think it was flipped in one of the previous ones, but that was a mistake in a previous video. Anyway, they are finished. They are finished. So the only thing that the Americans have now got is CCC. I wonder if they could take a crack at that hex with CCC. Let's see, but I may not bother. I may just call it here. So just to see what happened, I rolled the snafu for CCC, and they only got a partial activation. And with a partial activation, even if they followed it with a full activation, that neither of their units has got enough movement points to get over and contest this location. And so the Germans have just eked out a win here despite some real scares. Very close game. You can see all this traffic backlog coming down this road now building up, which would be a bit of a nightmare if there were more turns. But as it is, we're stopping here. It's the end of the game, and the Germans have the victory locations they require. They control Sabitler, they control Kern's Crossroads, they control Sidi Bouzid quite easily, and they have just about held on to this hex with the Ryman's 2nd 86th Infantry with some armour support. So that is Baptism by Fire. That's the first scenario that I've played of it anyway. 5.2 Operation Spring Wind. This has been a really fun game. Really fun game. It looked through turns 2 and 3 like it was petering out to a washout, and then this last turn there have just been fireworks and opportunities and a real mobile sort of warfare. The kind of real mobile warfare that you expect in the sort of desert in the North African front. You know, opportunities just rolling up roads, really chaotic supply line situations, and very unpredictable changes that can occur, like this sudden CCA charge towards Sabitler, and then the response by a camp group that were off board, charging all the way up this road to recapture it. That stuff like that just really fired the imagination at the end of the game. And it was great fun rolling the Kampfgruppe onto the board, sweeping away some unprepared American defences, and then watching how things unfolded. So I think this scenario gives a really good flavour for what the system can offer. I was a bit concerned that it doesn't quite have the density of action and counters to really show off the ways you can combine all your different units, and maybe it doesn't have that. It will have obviously a different flavour to Last Blitzkrieg, but certainly one that is really good fun. It seems to, my early impressions are, it seems to model this sort of supply situation very nicely, and these snafu rolls, the sort of activation rolls, leave you, they cut through all the certainty that you tend to have a bit too much of in a lot of games, and you're never quite sure how much of an activation you're going to get. You can't rely on things moving where you want them to or where you need them to, or having as many movement points as you need them to. So you're always waiting on that die roll, and you're always very grateful to see a decent result come up, and you think, great, I can do something with these units. But then you're trying to plan, and then you can't plan what your other units are going to be able to do. So it does build in that layer of uncertainty into all your decision making, which gives sort of World War II at any scale, I think is absolutely necessary to give it the right feel and flavour. A sort of clockwork, mechanical inevitability in war games is just not something that I enjoy anyway. Certain other people may like it, but I find it all a bit too much like accounting and not much like decision making. So there it is, Baptism by Fire. If you haven't tried it, well worth a look.